I am back with another Prove It Basic Strategy video. This is the most requested video that I've been asked to do as far as basic strategy goes. That's gonna be a pair of 8s versus a dealer's 10. In fact, this was sent in by Toefish, and they asked, is splitting 8s against the dealer's 10 ace really the correct move? And there was a response to that by Apache Wraith, who said, unless you have the opportunity to surrender, which isn't quite right. There are some opportunities to surrender, which I'll talk about at the end if you're a card counter and the count is a certain way, but it's an expanded deviation. So that comment or that response to the comment isn't quite right, but I'll address that at the end of this video. Anyway, if you've seen this before, we're gonna be playing out 100 hands of basic strategy and 100 hands of what a non-card counter or a ploppy might do. In this case, it's gonna be to hit. All right, so I have a pair of 8s here, which we'll throw over here. And I think the easiest way to kind of visualize this is, let's say that the black, think of these as units. We have black units and green units. I just don't have enough chips to do either, or to do the same of each. So just think of it as like one chip and one chip. So if this is a non-card counter, what they might think is, oh, 16 versus dealer's 10. Well, basic strategy says I should hit this. And if that's what they do, by the way, let me take the first couple of cards here, give it some shuffles, just so you know that the whole deck now is mixed up. We're gonna start with the dealer's whole card down here. By the way, I have to check for blackjack every time since there's a 10. But 16 versus dealer's 10 on the basic strategy chart, a hard 16 is a hit. So they might hit this. So think of this as our ploppy, our non-card counter. And now they have 18, all right? So that's good. So I have to remember that here is what they have is 18. Whereas the other guy, maybe they are going to split their 8s. This is our card counter or our basic strategy player. Now they get a 10, and of course basic strategy says that we should still hit our 10 versus 10. Okay, now I have 20. On the next one they have 20 again. And the dealer has 15 and also 20. So these were, I'm sorry, this was a loss. This one was a push. If you remember back to this guy, that was these two cards, which was an 18, which is also a loss, all right? So in both cases, they lost one chip. So I'm going to mark that up as a loss for both. We're going to do maybe 5 of these like this, and then I'll do the other 95 in a hyperlapse so I don't waste your whole day, okay? Now I'm gonna take all the cards back except for the pair of 8s and the 10, and we're going to start over, all right? So I have my 1 chip out here. And this guy, I'm gonna put out 2 because I have to split. Now there is an exception. If the dealer has blackjack, they won't have the opportunity to split yet, so I'd only take 1. I have kind of done that incorrectly in past videos, I think. So let's start again here. Again, I have my tally marks marked up. This is gonna be a hit. All right, so unfortunately this is a loss right away. So because I already lost the chip, I can mark that up as a loss for my ploppy, my non-card counter. All right, now over here, this same 9 is going to be the first card out on my first split 8. So stand on a 17. On the next one, an 11. Now you got to double down against the dealer's 10. By the way, was there blackjack? No, there wasn't. Okay, now they have 21. Interesting. Dealer has 13 and 17. So this one's actually a win of 2 chips, whereas over here, this was a push. And so overall they got more chips, and therefore this was a win for my basic strategy guy. All right, now let's try it again. As I'm taking the cards up here, kind of my prediction is that I think, since we're starting with 50 chips each, I think both cases we're gonna be less than 50. I think these are kind of, these are negative expected value, you might say, especially for this guy. However, I think we're going to lose more over here by not splitting our 8s, by just hitting. So that's kind of my prediction as we go. All right, no blackjack, so I can go ahead and hit. And again, that is too many, and so that's gonna be a loss for our ploppy. All right, and over here, again, that 9 would go on this first one, that's 17, you gotta stand. 14 is a hit, and that's 24. That was too many, so I have to take those. All right, I'm not gonna take the cards yet because I need to keep those 8s out there. Dealer has 19, so this was also a loss. Now, that was another loss for a basic strategy guy. Now, unfortunately, by splitting, sometimes you can lose 2 chips. Or more, like in that last case where we had to double. So there's kind of that part of it as well, which is kind of why I think these guys are asking those questions. In that case, you know, this guy just lost 1 chip where this guy lost 2 chips. So that's kind of an interesting ordeal. All right, that's 3. Let's do 2 more and I'll throw it into a hyperlapse for you. No blackjack, this is a hit. Okay, hey, there's 21, so we'd stand on that. Now over here, this guy, still gonna get this, so a 13 hits. All right, now it's too many, it's 22. So that one's a loss. On this one, 12 hit and 18 can stand. Dealer has 22. So they do get their chip back. So sometimes by splitting, you might win one and lose one, or win one, lose one in this case, and therefore you broke even. So I would call that a push because they didn't win or lose any chips. They kept the same amount. So I'm going to kind of chalk that up as a push in the chart that I'm keeping over here. Now remember, back to this one, this was a 21 with that first card that came out. And of course, since the dealer busted, they'd also win their chip. And so that's gonna be a win for our ploppy. All right, let's do one more before I throw it into a hyperlapse. Get those out there, put those back. By the way, before I do this last one, no blackjack, if you guys find these interesting, please hit the thumbs up button for me. That really helps me out, helps kind of get these videos to a point where they become a little bit profitable for me to make them. It's free for you and it really helps me. So that's kind of a win-win in my view, and hopefully in your view as well. I will keep making them for you guys as well. All right, 16 gonna hit. Man, I've had a 9 like 3 times there. So that's a loss. All right, mark that up. And over here, split these. The 9 goes there, 17 can stand. And this next one, 13 is a hit. 15 is still a hit, and that's too many. So let's see, dealer has 14 and too many. So they get their chip back again as a push because we won a chip and lost a chip. So currently we have more losses for our ploppy, and we have 1 win and 1 push, or 2 pushes, excuse me, for our basic strategy player. So you can kind of see just in 5 hands, the really small sample size. Let's see what happens over the next 100 hands. So I've got 95 more to go. I'll throw this into a hyperlapse and I'll be back with you for the results. All right, I'm back with the results. They were kind of interesting. First off, let me just go over when we split, which is what basic strategy said to do. We won 31 times, we lost 45 times, and we pushed 12 times. Whereas when we hit, which is what a non-card counter might do, they won 19 times, lost 66 times, and pushed 3 times. Now you're probably thinking that does not add up to 100. And you're right, this is 88, I believe, for both of these. And that's because I ran out of chips for the non-card counter, for the ploppy, because it is just such a bad strategy to not split your 8s. And when you hit, or even if you would have stood, they would have lost way more than the person who split. Now, like I predicted at the beginning, both cases was negative EV. We ended up losing chips. Remember, we started 50 and 50 chips for each. This guy over here, the basic strategy one, only lost 23 chips. So that's less than half of what they started with, excuse me. Whereas this guy, of course, lost everything, and I had to stop the experiment as there was no more chips to work with. So kind of an interesting result there. Now, to give some validity to at Toefish, who asked this question, there were times when I got multiple 8s out here, and let's say it split to maybe 4 times and ended up losing everything, whereas the guy who hit, maybe they pulled a 4 and got 20 or something, the dealer ended up with 19, and all these 18s, or all these 8s, I should say, maybe I end up, you know, busting or losing 3 of the 4 chips or something like that. So there are times where it does seem like, man, by splitting, I'm gonna lose more. And yes, that does happen, but in the long run, of course, you actually don't. In one particular hand, you might lose more chips than someone who doesn't play basic strategy correctly. But overall, you will end up losing less in the long run. So it is a hand that, because it's negative expected value, it just feels bad to split that, thinking I'm gonna lose more than I would otherwise, but you actually lose more in the long run by hitting. Or if I would have stood, it would have been probably a very similar result, as a lot of times the dealer was pulling more than 16 with their 10 showing. So whether you hit or stand, I think it would have been a very, very similar result. Now, let me know down below in the comments, what's a hand that you want to see next? Do you think I did this experiment correctly? Is there anything that you would change if you were to do it? And let me know that down below. And maybe your hand might be the next one that I show on this Prove It Basic Strategy series. Otherwise, again, this took a couple hours, as it is a lot to do about 100 hands each. So again, I appreciate if you hit that thumbs up button for me on your way out. Otherwise, until next time, this is A1 Blackjack.